Okay, morning, folks. Just before I get going with the weather forecast, a quick note about the CA's consultation on the pilot medical declaration, and the fact that this consultation closes in a couple of days' time, and it's up to us to make sure that if we have an opinion on their views on the PMD, that we pass on our views and how important it is for us to maintain this option for people to go flying. I think the consultation is a little bit biased, and the survey that they're doing is a bit binary in places. You don't really get a full list of choices, but certainly fill it in, folks. Is it important that we get a full representation? As it says there, 14,000 PMDs have been submitted, and quite a number of those will be glider pilots who would normally have flown on driving licenses, and no actual CAA medicals, and we want to retain that moving forward. Right, enough of that one. Let's get on to the real stuff, the weather. This chart's been looking similar for the last couple of days, really. Warm fronts and a cold front coming across us with a big band of rain. And it's all about timing. And I think looking at it, that might be slightly different from what the predicted data is actually saying. The actual data looks very, very slightly different, as you'll see in a minute. So they're saying that by lunchtime, the main frontal bands here are still to the west of us. This warm front and cold front, and we're on this sort of warm sector air as it's rolling through. And it's not really going to, according to this, clear through till late evening. And they're talking about it loitering across us in a sort of waving front. The jet stream is driving down this way and then up through here, which means you get slower moving waving fronts sat on the edge of the jet stream, not really going anywhere at times. Tomorrow, well, that's been very variable. Again, frontal systems, maybe not during the afternoon, but the timing on that has been a bit out. But it doesn't have to look windy after that as the jet stream moves slightly further south and then starts to head over us. So Monday, yeah, could be very, very windy. Okay, the TAFs. Let's just sort of refresh. So Farnborough, let's see what changed. Well, most of the time they're predicting sort of tempo rain really up to 1800 hours tonight. You can see it's tempo between 9 and 15, 7,000 meters rain, broken at 1,200 feet, and then a 40% tempo rain and drizzle between 9 and 3 o'clock this afternoon, broken at 700 feet. And then there's becoming between 15 and 18, 700 feet tempo, 4,000 meters rain and drizzle up till 6 o'clock tonight. So they're covering all the bases and just saying it's going to be here all day. I'm not going to sort of just call a halt to the briefing there and say it's going to rain all day, because I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen. Winds, you can see the jet stream winds are up through here, across Ireland at the moment, 75, 80 knots, and as you go further north, it gets windier. Over us, 2,000 foot winds, I think for most of the day look like they're going to be 230, 30, 35 knots, but the clearance area that we're seeing, the winds go westerly today, and you'll see that on both the sat pic. There's quite a strong edge here to the front over Ireland, with lots of cloud and the bands of rain tucked in here, and the rainfall radar showing the bands of rain, but beyond this, not really very much, odd little bits. So there's a chance that will go through and possibly give something this afternoon, but it depends on how that front twists itself and whether it does turn into a waving front. So I think it's a case of watch and see, really. Temperature wise, I think it's going to be fairly similar to yesterday. It's a mild wind direction. It got to 11, 12 degrees yesterday, and it's already 9 outside there at the moment. So it will pick up as the day goes on. Both Top Meteo and SkySight just show the rain. Sat here all day. And SkySight do the same. That's sort of 11 o'clock, and if you move it through to sort of 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, then 4 o'clock, not clearing through really till much later in the day. Anywhere that's got a firework display that starts after about 7 o'clock should be all right. Speaking of firework displays, I only learned about the display in the village by looking at the NOTAM yesterday morning. Very good display. So what do I think? Well, I wouldn't write the afternoon off. So if you're on the afternoon list to fly, call the office midday, 1 o'clock. I'm sure that they'll be able to update you from the instructors, or Sam and Barry will be able to update the office on what they think the options are for the afternoon, whether it's a write-off or whether there's a potential for a clearance. There's a faint glimmer of hope with that edge of that front, if the front doesn't suddenly stop and wave over us. So a possibility this afternoon, but I think a thin possibility, and you won't know till about 11, 12 o'clock how the front's progressing and what's likely to happen. Okay, so if you do go flying, is there any airspace to worry about? Well, no. Lots of the dots all around here, all firework displays that have NOTAM'd, especially if they're inside airspace. And as my village's firework display was inside the airspace and underneath the ILS flight path into Southampton, it was NOTAM'd up to 1,000 feet. But I didn't see any jet or any aircraft going into Southampton last night anyway. So yeah, nothing in our local area. Once again, there's a Royal flight out of Kemble, and I think this is something we're very conscious of at the moment, with both Charles and Princess Anne living in that area. That seem to be flying out of there quite regularly. Hopefully it won't become a feature in the summer, because it does tend to be at awkward times and block off one of the main cross-country routes, certainly for us, out of Lasham heading northwest. One single aircraft gets an hour's worth of airspace. And I remember when they first introduced this airspace at Kemble, in the first year, the aircraft only ever hit the airspace. I think there was 12 days when the airspace were active, and it only once hit the timings on the airspace. So it's all a bit hit and miss. Apart from that, folks, no jet movements or even other aircraft movements. There's a flight plan from Gordon's Bonanza, but I don't think that'll be coming in looking at the weather. And that's about it, folks. If you're on the afternoon flying list, call the office midday. So have a look at the rainfall radar on one of the apps, and it'll give you a good idea if there's going to be a clearance.